Good evening, Love Bay family. I'm Felicia Fishoff, registered psychotherapist and founder of Rooted in Resilience Psychotherapy and Wellness. And you're tuned in to Barbershop Tuesday on the Mental Health Hour. Tonight's topic is When Yes Costs Too Much: Men, Boundaries, and Self-Respect. Too often, men in our community carry the weight of responsibility at work, at home, and in relationships, feeling like saying no might be seen as a weakness or rejection. But tonight, we're breaking the silence. We're talking about what it really means to set boundaries, honor your peace, and lead with self respect and self preservation. I'm joined by our incredible Barbershop Tuesday panel. Josh Dale, a registered psychotherapist with over a decade of experience in trauma and mental health, blending creativity, humor, and heart with every conversation. Kunle Ifabi, social worker and psychotherapist who creates empowering spaces for men to speak freely and reconnect with purpose. Andrew Peterkin, psychotherapist whose grounded, culturally attuned approach helps men unpack their stories and reconnect with their strength. Matthew Perez, creative entrepreneur and digital strategist who speaks truth about stress and the quiet weight of expectation. And tonight, we're honored to have Gavin George join us for the first time. An engineer, a creative who brings empathy, connection, and a people first lens to every discussion. There's always been a fifth voice in the barbershop, and we're so glad to have him here with us tonight. And October is Depression Awareness Month, and we recognize that many men struggle in silence, feeling pressure to stay strong, even when they're running on empty. So tonight, we hold space for those conversations that often go unspoken. If topic resonates with you, take that as your sign. Talk to someone, reach out for support, and remember, saying no is not a rejection, it's self respect and preservation. And as always, reminder that the Mental Health Hour is for education and awareness only and does not replace therapy or professional mental health care. The chat is open, our call in line is open, so go ahead and invite your brothers, your uncles, your cousins, your sons, and friends to pull up and have a seat at the table with us tonight. This is your space, your conversation, and your reminder that strength starts with honesty. So stay tuned. We're getting real about boundaries, brotherhood, and the power of protecting your peace. How you guys doing?
We're
Good.
good, yeah.
Good.
It's good to be back
Good.
once
Good to be
Good.
back.
again.
Yes,
Excited to be here.
Barbershop Tuesdays.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely, absolutely. And, despite the technical difficulties tonight, we're here, we're doing our thing. And I've been so excited for tonight because it is one of my favorite words in the whole wide therapy world. Boundaries. And I love talking to my clients about boundaries. And I think that it is so important for us to talk about. But I'm going to make room for the barbershop. Why is it important for the Love Bay family, especially are we talking about boundaries tonight?
Boundaries. Yeah, it's a very important topic. And I think this connects well with men because oftentimes men carry all the responsibilities, put everything on their shoulders, often take more than they can actually handle, not to seem weak or not to seem like they're disappointing someone. But boundaries are necessary to help us learn that if you take too much than you can actually handle, you would end up disappointing and hurting people. So it's just better to set boundaries up front and to know that we can only carry what we can handle. To know that we're human.
Yes.
We don't have, we're human, so we have
Yes.
feelings and we have limitations.
Yeah. With my clients
Absolutely.
I use some words. Yeah. with my clients, I use some words like self-agency and self-leadership and caring for yourself. And boundaries fits into that so well. As I see my clients step out on boundaries, usually it's difficult within family settings. So to see them, step out and set boundaries, to see how that's impacting their self-confidence and their empowerment to really be like, hey, you know what, my mental health matters, my capacity matters, my energy matters, what I need matters, and I don't have to always say yes to everything. I don't have to always carry everything. And so to see them grow in that self-leadership, self-agency, self-advocacy has been amazing. And boundaries is such a good way to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we don't have healthy boundaries, it's easy to get frustrated. It feels like people are overstepping those boundaries. People are using you in some way. And sometimes we can become people that like just want to please everybody and make everybody happy. And when we're in that space where, on the one hand, we're trying to people please, make everyone happy, but we ourselves aren't, that can cause like a lot of anger inside of us. And I think it's important to have those boundaries so we don't end up becoming more and more angry at people around us and ourselves.
100%. I resonate with that too, Andrew. It's an important conversation because, as you mentioned, it festers in you, and anger tends to kind of be that end result of you not setting safe boundaries, not setting boundaries in your relationships and with things you do. And I think I'm glad we're here to kind of just unpack that, dive deeper and kind of see what that looks like and how we can help and how you can live a better, more fulfilling life when you set safe boundaries for yourself. So,
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. When I think of that word, I don't know why, but I'm thought of when you're on the plane in case of an emergency, and they're like, well, you need to put your own face mask on first before you help anybody else. And I think that tends to be the thing, is that you can be drowning or you can be suffocating and don't identify. If you don't help yourself, then you can't be of use to anybody else. And that can be detrimental.
100%.
Absolutely. Well said, brothers. Like always. Holla. I love that you guys talked about how much weight men carry. And, some of the key words that I heard you guys bring up is people pleasing, right? Why do you think men feel the need to people please? And beyond, there's like what they carry and beyond like what they hold, like why do men carry why do men carry all of this weight, and why are they afraid to speak up for themselves?
I think we covered some of this in other talks, which has been great. It's just been a natural, organic conversation. But man, I think that as there is this weight expected of men, right? You're to be strong, you're not to complain. And so with a setup like that, you're just bound to carry this weight. You're bound to just say yes, to take it on, right? Because if you were to say no, if you were to stand up and say, hey, I can't handle this, you're seen maybe as that weak person. You're not seen as truly a man, right? I think of people that are getting into relationships and in intimate relationships, the long-term relationships, or they're dating, and there's this sense of feeling this expectation. I gotta now provide everything. I gotta do everything. I gotta say yes. I gotta be a man, right? Because if I falter in that, it's just easy to go and get someone who will be stronger or portrays more of a man, right? There's this expectation to, you always got to be a man. You always got to be strong. You always got to carry. And man, the men in my virtual online office are processing this. They're breaking down some of this stereotype, some of this, the way that things have been set up, because it's too much to carry. Right? You're not less of a man for saying no, or for having boundaries, or you're not weak. You're not a viable partner because you say no, or because you can't carry everything, right? You're still worthy of being someone's partner. You're still worthy of a relationship. even if you can't carry everything all the time. And so I think it has to deal with what the setup has been. You got to be strong. You got to carry everything all the time. And if not, you're not a man. And so that feeds into so much people pleasing, so much saying yes, so much denying, as Gavin was saying, denying our own our own health for the sake of others, which then we're going to burn out. We're not going to be a good help. We didn't put our own mask on first, right? And really made sure that we have the capacity and we can care for others. So, yeah.
100%. And just to extend on that, we've addressed this in obviously multiple other podcasts where it's rooted in multiple different aspects of your life. So your upbringing is one, how you were in school, how you are in society, how you are in the workforce, these expectations around you, but also, as you're a child, you're seeking to belong. Did you feel accepted? And I think you start to people please when you feel like, okay, I'm not fitting in, or I want to fit in. I want to be a part of this group. And you're almost like pulling people in to say, accept me, accept me. And I think definitely it starts from a child. And then as you go up, you go into society, you go into culture, you go into so many different things where you have to question, where do I fit in? And sometimes there's no answer for you. So you try to please just to fit in. And I think people, I admit, I've done that massively. Growing up in a West Indian family, I have a mixed family. Both parents are born and raised in Trinidad. I'm light skinned. I grew up in Scarborough, moved to Pickering. People used to speak in slang, and I'll be like, I don't even know what that means. They're like, bro, you're black. I'm like, okay, well, it's more than just a language. So it's being a light-skinned guy fitting in with people who perceive you to be a certain way. So it's like, okay, I used to question where do I fit in. I'm sure a lot of people do that. So it's cultural. You get into a workforce, you want to feel accepted. You begin to break your own boundaries so that you can be accepted by everyone. And this is things you carry into your marriage, things you carry into your relationship. Until you set yourself free, you will either burn out, you will become the villain in some capacity. And yeah. So.
Yep.
Wow.
You took it right out of the bat. Why do men people please? In addition to that, just like it's been mentioned, yes, it's the way we were socialized right from early age. Boys don't cry. Expectation, what society expects from you as a boy, as a man. And sometimes you start from that early age, we carry that into adulthood, relationship. This is how you propose. You have to go all the way. You have to spend everything in your bank accounts. You have to buy a ring worth 5,000, 20,000. There are just so many expectations that feel like you need to meet this or else you're deficient. So men tend to mask or cover up, just try to meet those expectations. And a lot of us find out, even myself, even though I'm a therapist, sometimes you get carried away. I was with my therapist last week, and this was a topic that come out, like realize, oh, there are areas I also need to prioritize my well-being. I was taking on too much, and my therapist was telling me ways that I also could set back. Like, yeah, I teach people this, and sometimes in certain aspects of our life, we also get carried away and we do too much. So this is a conversation for each and every one of us, just to learn, identify areas where we're people pleasing, carrying on more than we should, and to put in those boundaries, those healthy boundaries, to make things better. Boundaries come not because we want to put wall off and cut people off, but boundaries actually come to make relationship better, to kind of prune out the excesses and focus on the main thing, make the main thing the main thing, and let that relationship thrive.
That's powerful. Yeah.
So boundaries are not a negative word. It's not putting up walls, cutting people off. It's actually having the difficult conversations, setting expectations right, and helping the relationship be better.
Yeah, I think that comes from a distorted value system. So I see it is that men, it's like we have to earn our value.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what the world has put on us, and then therefore that the act of performing, like the competition, all of that, and it doesn't even set like a tunnel vision. It's just more of we get lost or thrown into the world and said sink or swim. And boundaries are what keep you focused on what it keeps you grounded as in your path. And I think a lot of the times if you don't set up these boundaries, you will get lost.
Yeah.
So I think it all kind of stems from what your value system is, or what was introduced to you, and then it's like how do you interact with that?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of you guys. I think for a lot of men, there's that fear of like not being accepted or not being loved. And when you are in a space where it's like, unless I do whatever it is, like if I put rice, peas, and oxtail in my fridge, and like I love rice, peas, and oxtail. I'm just like, I'm super excited. I'm gonna eat it later, and then someone comes along and eats
don't
it.
show up.
Yeah, someone comes along and eats it. And it's like, okay, you know what? I'll just let it go. I'll let it go. You do it again. Someone comes and eats it again. It's like, oh my god. Okay, I'll let it go this time. And it happens over and over again. Eventually, you're gonna get really upset, right? You're gonna get frustrated. It's like, that's my food. But if we don't have boundaries, it's gonna keep getting taken from you. But a lot of times, we're sitting there getting upset. We're getting angry, but we don't want to say anything because we want that food. We want what we have, but we're also afraid of like losing that love from the people around us. So we choose to be okay with that hurt that we're experiencing. And eventually it's going to lead to sadness and depression and anger and all those experiences just because we're not saying anything.
See, starving yourself. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is there's underlying fear. There's expectations, whether it's societal or personal expectations. And there's something about identity that I feel like has also kind of come up, right? So what is the link then between knowing who you are, right, and setting boundaries?
Yeah. I think that comes with the words that I was teaching my clients, this idea of self-advocacy, self-agency, self-leadership, right? And having permission to do that. Like a lot of times people will go to implement boundaries and they'll feel guilty, right? Oftentimes you do it in your family dynamics and it's like, oh, I'm guilty. My mom raised me. She was a single mom and I should respect and honor. And so having boundaries, it's not. And the work that I do with people, and I think it can happen beyond the therapy room, is recognizing that my needs are valid as well. That I can advocate for myself, that I can have this idea of self-leadership, self-agency, self-care, where, hey, you know what? Like, I matter, my capacity matters, my mental health matters. I can make my needs known and not have to feel guilty about it. I can make my needs known and not have to feel weak or less than a man. And so as we step into more of who we are, again, in that self, we start to have more confidence to be able to stick to boundaries, right? Even though, and this is something I brought up with clients, and Felicia, because our program at school really focused on systems, you often see, one of the things I notice, you often see that when you implement boundaries, it's going to cause tension because it's disrupting what the homeostasis, or lack of better word for it's disrupting the norm, right? And so as you set boundaries, there's tension and people are upset at you. I think Andrew talked about that, right? Like you're there's now a lack of peace maybe, or some tension, or some hurt relationships. But as I teach men to step, or people, as I teach people to step into that sense of self-agency, self-advocacy, self-leadership, they're able to hold those tensions and be okay without that guilt or shame, without taking the whole responsibility of, oh, I just screwed up all the relationships. Maybe I just need to go back to being a people pleaser. It's like, no, actually, my thing matters, and I'm gonna stick with my boundaries. That's probably one of the, maybe we'll talk about that later, but that's one of the issues that I find people tend to have with boundaries, is they'll start to implement them, they'll meet that tension, that inevitable tension, and then they'll fall back and they'll be like, you know what, it's not worth it. But sticking with those, advocating for yourself, knowing that you matter, knowing that what you're presenting is leading to your mental health, your capacity, your emotions, being at a good regulated level, knowing that it's okay to have these boundaries and sticking with them, I think that is really what helps. So identity, the more you understand and know yourself and accept yourself and advocate for yourself, I think the more confidence you have with setting these boundaries and living a nice, balanced, healthy lifestyle in all areas, whether it's in my family system, whether it's at work, whether it's with my friends. But identity is huge.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't. I think it's all interconnected, but a lot of people don't even know who they are and what they want. And if you've been saying yes for so long, finding the courage and confidence to start saying no in areas where you have those boundaries or start to set them, I think finding that identity is key. It's 100%. And I think a guy I watch, his name's Myron Golden. He always says disruption always follows intention. So we have to set our mind to know that if we want change in our lives, disruption is going to happen. We have to have the courage to take that step, to make the change. And anything you want to get into better shape, guess what? You're going to have to diet. You can't eat all the pastries. You can't eat all pizza and stuff. You want to stay in shape. You're going to be exhausted. You want to see the end result. Guess what? It's going to take months to see that result. So if you want change, you have to be prepared for that disruption. But in the end, you love it. You love the change. You love the battle you've gone through, the journey you've gone through, and it's powerful. Anything you want to enter, you're going to encounter disruption. And whether, as you mentioned, Josh, that system changes, the system's going to get disrupted. But now you're in a position where you can help reshape the system versus just fitting in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What do you mean I can't eat my piece of pie, Matt?
Said you can have it, but there are consequences.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because it's you, through that repetition, you can create that identity. And I think a lot of the times we don't project that far ahead. Like the boundaries that are set, the who do I want to be, rather than just conforming. I'm like, if I say yes all the time, I've become the yes man.
Yeah.
Right. So then, unbeknownst to me, I'm like, well, I've said yes to this, so I might as well just keep going in that direction. And then that's where you start to feel lost. And then it's like, well, is this me, or is it just something that's been put on me and I just got to carry it forward? And I think that's where the weight comes in, because then it's like, well, now the expectation is that I need to become better at being this yes man and deliver, rather than charting your own course and saying, you know what, this is where I need to go. And, if I have to cut something out to get there, then, that's the sacrifice. It's easier. The lane of least resistance is, you see that the yellow brick road and you're like, oh, this looks like the way, as opposed to that little path that's there that, maybe it's less traveled. So
100%. No, that's powerful for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with like everything that you guys are saying. I think we can a lot of times get stuck in a role that we learned when we were younger. Even when you're talking about family systems earlier, like for example, if there's like one parent, like another parent left, passed away, whatever the case may be, one of the children, let's say there's multiple children, but the oldest children, for example, they might end up getting placed in the role as the parent, and so they're playing the parent role along with the actual parent, and that's the role that you learn throughout your life. Like you're older, you're still taking care of your family, you're still taking care of your mom, your dad. It's a role that you're part of, and then society tells you, or your marriage tells you, like this is another role that you have to play, and you get stuck into that other role. And throughout your life, you just spend your life playing these roles, and you never figure out who you are. And so, like, I think it is important to like create boundaries so you can start figuring out, who am I? I'm not a parent for my mom. I'm not a parent for my siblings. I'm not a husband or wife to my mother, whatever the case may be. We have to like step out of those roles, because a lot of times they're not healthy for us. We're playing roles that we shouldn't be in.
Yeah, and that's empowering. And then that fits into this empowerment of like your true self, being able to draw that out for people, for yourselves. Like like I think you said it so well, is you just end up going through life just with different hats, different roles, and not really knowing who you are, right? And it's because of the expectations. It's because of the yes. It's because of the not wanting to complain. It's because of the not wanting to disappoint people. But it's so damaging when you get to a certain age that you're supposed to, know who you are, and you're like, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. And it's because you've taken on so many roles that weren't maybe ones that you wanted, or, they overshadowed who you are, your goals, your gifts, your talents, your personality, your desires, right? And I think, yeah, the more we implement boundaries, the more we're able to, as Gavin said too, like we're able to really beef up our own identity, our own self. Hey, this is who we are, and it's okay that we have these boundaries, right? But I love that you said that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, knowing who you are definitely goes with boundaries. They go side by side. To set boundaries, it's really important to kind of know your values, to know what you value and what you want to set boundaries about. And like you said, also sometimes you don't even know. Maybe you don't know who you are. You've gone through life. Maybe what you feel is what Matt talked about earlier, and you've said yes so many times, and you're noticing this anger, this reaction. That anger is useful. That anger is communicating something. That anger can be an indication to tell you who you are. I remember when I was working as an accountant, it was anger that I just noticed. I'll be on my computer working, I'll see other colleagues doing other chatting, and I'll be angry. And I'm like,
Mm.
why are you angry at other colleagues chatting? Because they're in different departments. And it was just weird, but that anger was communicating something to me. I'm dissatisfied in this role. This role is not what I want. I want to talk like they are talking, but I didn't get it at first. I was just wrapped up in this anger. But doing the work, looking into that anger, like, oh, I need to set boundaries. I had to call my boss. I was like, what's the plan for the next year in this role? What does it look like? That does I can't be stuck. I like hire someone. I'm going to train them for 1 month. I'm gone. Yeah, and that's what I do. But it started with that anger. I was fulfilling the job looked very lucrative, very professional, but there was just this dissatisfaction. I was stuck in a different role, and seeing other people having that anger showed me what's possible. I wasn't even sure this is what I was going to do. I just knew I needed to do something different, and that led me to discover myself. So when we are stuck in a role and we feel anger, investigate. That anger might be telling you something. It might help you actually discover yourself so that you can set healthy boundaries, know what you value, know what's important in your life, and lead you in the course of peace and better relationship and ease and fulfillment.
Absolutely. I love that you talked about noticing the anger, and just like anger and all the other emotions, like it's information, and it's usually telling us something, that something deeper is going on, right? And I know that the word disappointment has kind of popped up throughout our conversation, and like honestly, sometimes you have to set boundaries, even though you're going to disappoint people.
Yeah.
Right? And people sometimes will praise your overexertion. Like, oh my gosh, you're so great. Look at you with no boundaries. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So true.
Right?
And
Because,
what I've learned
yeah.
there though is that those are the same people that aren't around when you burn out. You know what I mean?
100%.
Talk
They're
about
not
it.
there. Oh,
100%.
and this is where I've learned, because I actually hit a burnout. I hit like an actual burnout. I had to take off like 4 months of work, which I needed money, but I had to. Like it was, I couldn't do anything. And the thing I learned through that was the word no, which is great to learn that when you didn't know that before. And I think within that, what I've built confidence in terms of my own identity is, and this is what I was going to bring up too, Felicia. So you brought it up at the perfect time, is that I had to be okay with disappointing people knowing that I'm not taking the responsibility of their reaction, right? When I'm doing something that is healthy, when I'm doing something to advocate for myself. I think that's one of the hardest things that people will go through with boundaries is like seeing who it disappoints, right? Especially, here's the thing, especially when you're in that people pleasing mode, right?
Yes.
People pleasing and disappointment are opposite ends. So when you're setting boundaries, it's
feel
hard to get over that hurdle, of disappointing people. But I had to think of my health. I had to think of like, do I want to go through this burnout? Do I want to crash? Do I want to be stuck in adrenal fatigue? Do I want all that? No. And so I had to learn that word. I had to learn no. And I think, yes, it disappointed people and it was hard at the start. Now not that I love it, but I love advocating for myself.
I just say no to everybody.
Right. I don't carry the weight of your I don't carry the weight of your disappointment and frustration. Because again, you weren't there when I was burning out. You didn't come
100%.
and pay my wages that I lost out on in 4 months, right? And so I've had to learn to say no, to disappoint people, right? I'm not just out here maliciously, moving with people. But if I can't do something, right? I had 2 friends. Okay, this is an example. I had 2 friends, or 2 people, a cousin and a friend that both asked me to MC their wedding because I like public speaking. I love that kind of stuff. And I just checked my capacity and what I had going on, and I said no to both of them so easily. And that was a muscle that I had to build. Whereas before, however many years ago, even though I know it would burn me out and that would, impact my week with my own clients, and then I would get into a funk and I would isolate, back in the day, I would have just said yes, knowing that those were the consequences because I didn't want to disappoint these people. But I said to them, I said, actually, no, I can't. Right. And, I just left that there. I didn't try to carry the weight of their disappointment or what are they going to think about me? They're not going to invite me places now. They're not going to ask me for any opportunities in the future. I just shut myself out for all this stuff. No. I don't have to carry that weight. I can be comfortable disappointing people when I'm setting boundaries because I know the greater outcome is my health and my ability to do what I love. So
I love that, man. It's powerful.
Yeah.
You notice that when you set boundaries, if people leave when you're setting boundaries, they were never truly your friend in the first place. Let's get that straight.
Say that again. Say it
When
again.
people
Say
leave
it
you,
again.
when you start to set boundaries, they were never truly there for you. They were never truly your friend. And that's the reality. And it's powerful to what you said, Josh, as you start to set those boundaries and people start to move differently and not want to invite you places or ask you for things, you know what? They weren't truly there for you. And when you're going through your burnout, you see who your real people are. So it exposes it exposes a lot about you when you set boundaries, but it exposes the people in your environment. And I think it's powerful in both aspects. So
yeah. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Josh, I don't know why when you were talking, I just thought of the song. No, 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 no. That's the flex. That's a
Yeah. I love
Josh
it.
just walks on the street saying no. Guess what?
Right.
I was just thinking, like, look at Josh now. I'm like, he's a better man. He's just walking down the street. I'm like, hey, how you doing?
100.
No.
Yeah. No. No.
They're like, hi, how you doing? No.
Yeah. It saved my mental health though.
Honestly.
It's been a blessing. Yeah, been a blessing.
Yeah. No is a full statement. No is something it's healthy, it's positive.
Yes.
No it gives us capacity when you're able to say no, like just mentioned, check this capacity, I can do this, and said no. It gives it more room to actually rest and be better for your clients. But oftentimes we are scared to say no. We're scared to set those boundaries. We take on people's expectations of us, and regardless of our capacity. And that's something we need to constantly check when we get a request. Check in with yourself. Do I have capacity for this? Can I do this? Because if you don't have the capacity and you take on that task, you might not perform the best, you might not deliver, and then they're ending up disappointed anyway. So whichever way you go, you're going to disappoint people. So you need to
Mhm.
choose, is this something I have the capacity and I'm going to do and do my best? They love it or not, I did my best and you are satisfied. You don't want to disappoint yourself to please other people, because at the end of the day, you retire home to yourself. And now you have to resolve this internal conflict. You want to be able to honor yourself. Learning boundaries help us to say no when we need to say no, and learn to say yes when we want to say yes. So it's not just saying no to everyone, but actually checking your capacity and doing things that are in line with what you have the ability to do. Because
Yeah.
people are going to be disappointed whether you say yes, you say no. I saw this analogy today, something kind of similar to my background. There's a man and his child walking on going on a journey. They have a camel, and people walk by like, oh, why is the camel walking free and both of you are walking? Such waste of, you should be on the camel. And he went on the camel, put his child on the camel, and the next people walk by, oh, such wicked man. Do you want to kill the camel? Both you and your son
Mm.
on the camel? Come and let your son ride on the camel, you walk. He got down. They walk by, met the next set of people. Oh, this man, you're so foolish. Don't you know the camel has the capacity to carry both of you? So no
Mm.
matter what you do, people
Mm.
would always have a complaint. People will always be disappointed. People always have an opinion. So why please you can't please everybody. It's impossible. So
No,
do what's best for you.
Yeah,
that's
brothers,
good.
this brings up a question for y'all, because what I'm recognizing is that there are obstacles to setting boundaries. And the fact of like it's hard to maybe disappoint people, or it's hard to step out of that yes when you've said it for so many years. And so for our listeners, what do you guys think in terms of like how do we, what's the practicality in like being able to set boundaries and be okay in that? Like to not have that guilt or the shame or the frustration or like the I shouldn't be doing this, and the self-doubt. Like what is it, what are the practical things, tools that we can give our listeners and even each other that make it easier to set boundaries and stick with them?
That's a good question. Yeah, what are
Yeah.
practical tools that we could use? I think what comes to mind for me is the language you use in setting boundaries. Um, Sometimes we think when we need to set boundaries, we have to come up with a big speech explanation. But no, it could just be a simple statement. I don't feel comfortable with this. I
Yeah.
would rather you not do that. And maybe,
People ask why too, eh? Nowadays, they don't even respect the
yeah,
no. It's like, why not?
yeah. Yeah, you don't, why not? I just feel this way, and state that clearly. You don't owe an explanation. This is how I feel. This is what I want. I would like you to stop. Or you say, oh, I'm drawing. Maybe you said yes for so many times, like, I'm drawing the line at this point. This is not going to
Mm.
continue. So that's setting it. And we want to be respectful when we set boundaries.
Yes.
We don't want to be rude. We don't want to be argumentative. Sometimes talking too much, trying to explain the why, could lead you to pointing out things, and then they pick something, and then they can dilute or break down your boundaries. So it's good to just be simple. You want to be even tone voice, respectful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to do that, or please stop doing this. That's all. Just stated it. And if they continue, maybe if you continue to do this, I might have to do this. State consequences for the actions. If they don't respect your boundaries, I don't have control over them. They could choose to respect or not. But if they keep violating my boundaries, then I also might have to do this. Just let them know what the and if you say that, follow through if they do it. But still with calm. You don't want to get argumentative. You don't want to fight. You don't want to escalate. Just you having to follow your boundaries. So we want to be calm, respectful, simple statements.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, they're probably going to look at you like you're crazy, especially if you've always been a yes person. They're going to be like, what? Why? Why not? And as Kanle said, like, you just be calm, be respectful. I think it's okay with sitting in those uncomfortable moments, because the result you're trying to achieve is going to be the change, and it's going to be uncomfortable to say no. It's going to be uncomfortable to set those boundaries. People are going to look at you like you're crazy. And on the topic of identity, if you're searching for who you are, I think investing time in that, as people say, self-development and growth. What does it look like? What do you want for yourself? Where do you see yourself? Definitely read, definitely pray, definitely seek that self-development. I think it helps on the road to self-discovery to discover who you are. And I've heard someone say, what is your parameters for boundaries? When you identify who you are and who you want to become, if your surroundings disrupt that, then that's your boundary indicator. And I think that's kind of an indication. And as we mentioned, your body feels it. If you start to feel uncomfortable, you're like, okay, I have let this slide for too long. I need to start setting boundaries. And what you realize is it's uncomfortable both ways. You keep saying yes, and you start to say no. But the difference is if you keep saying yes, you feel it. You start saying no, you start releasing that. Other people may feel it. But then that's where relationships can grow. And that's how you know who your real people are.
Could part of the issue be that we see no as like a hard stop as opposed to like a redirection? Because no just seems, finite and like it's a wall. I said no. Why?
Period.
No. Like, yeah. But it could be, if others aren't in tune to your stance on it, then I don't expect them to understand the direction in which you're going. And it may not be your responsibility to make them understand. So that could be part of the journey. But I'm interested to know how you guys think that has no been hijacked and then therefore just been given all these negative connotations to say you say no and like, oh, okay, you're not a team player. You're not.
I think the right people would respect no. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I think like in the times where I have said just no, it hasn't always worked for me. So what I do now is like, I'm sorry, I don't have the energy for that right now. I don't have the capacity. Like if someone's like, oh, I need help moving, and I just worked like 10 hours, 12 hours, like I'll just let them know like, I'm sorry, I'm not able to do it today. I hope you can find help. But right now, I'm just really tired and I don't have the energy or capacity to do anything. I think people will understand, and if they don't, then I'll let them know, like, you know what, I already told you no, and that's my answer. And that'll be it.
I think sometimes.
Go ahead, Felicia.
Oh no, just saying, I think sometimes like people connect the word no with selfishness, right? It's like, oh, well, if I say no, it means that I'm selfish. What would you guys say to that?
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of that, again, those words that I keep bringing up, it really fits in this idea of like validating self. Really, like what I have matters. You know how many times I've had to walk through that with different clients and even myself, like, hey, my energy, my capacity, my mental health, my emotional health, my needs, my desires, they matter, right? And it seems like something simple, like, oh, of course you would think they matter, but a lot of people will bypass those for the pleasing of other people or because they don't want to disappoint. And so it really comes in that place of like, hey, no, you matter, right?
Yep.
And in that you matter, you start to reframe this thing. It's like, well, it's not that I'm being selfish. It's that I'm literally caring for myself. I'm really making sure that I'm not burnt out. Hey, listen, I have a lot of things that I want to do. I have to be there for my family. I have to be there for work. I have to be there for my clients. These are things that I love to do. And I can't do that if I'm always drained. So it's not a selfish thing. I'm actually, it's that idea of that your cup runneth over. Like it's great. I'm filling my cup, but I'm also, it gives me the capacity to be there for others. This is anything but selfish, right? My boundaries are here for good, and it's accepting that. So it's not just identifying it. It's like, hey, and this is okay. Like I have to work with clients to be like, hey, it's okay that I'm setting boundaries. I'm not being selfish. I'm not being hurtful. I'm not being mean. I am investing into myself and my capacity, my energy, and it's going to allow me to do the things that I want to do and care for people in the ways that I want to care for people. But if I never get to do that, I'm going to be a shell of myself. I'm going to be burnt out all the time. I'm going to get into bitterness and anger and frustration. So you're absolutely right. That word no is connected to this idea of selfishness or that this hard stop. But I think we have to go into that place of, hey, is it okay to validate myself? Is it okay that my needs matters? Is it okay that my energy matters? Hey, I feel like my body's gonna break down right now. I'm feeling this panicky and energy because I've worked with 6 clients. Um, Wait, it's okay for me to say no, that I don't want to drive someone somewhere, right? It's okay for me this. Why? Because I'm caring for my body. I'm respecting myself, right? And maybe I think this is in the title of our Instagram pictures, this idea of self-respect as well. And it's a huge thing of that. It's not selfishness, it's respecting ourselves, advocating for ourselves, right? And self-validating ourselves. And I think that reframe is what we need, that no is not selfish. No is not being mean. No is not being is not the fact that you're not a team player. I think we should reframe this word into something that is in a sense positive, as all my brothers were talking about here.
I think that there's like a negative core belief that my needs don't matter,
Yeah.
right? Like where there's this like inner critic that's telling us, well, my needs don't matter, so the other person's need is, more important than my own.
Yeah. I have been on the receiving end of this. Like sometimes you feel that way, like, oh, maybe my needs don't matter. And the way we interpret it, negative core belief, like you said, that matters. A few months ago, I had a program. I needed people to show up. I needed my friends to show up. I have a friend of over 10 years, or really good friends. And I wanted her and her husband to show up. And I reached out to, oh, I'm having this program. Could you please show up? Sent her, give the spiel. And I've never made a request like that. So I thought, oh, done deal. She's going to show up. She and her husband. And then the rest were like, oh, my husband is not interested. When I had like the first thoughts, I was like, what? I know the husband. I go to visit them. And then I was like, okay, I can understand. Maybe he's not in the earth space and it doesn't. I was like, what about you? Would you show up? And she was like, the way my husband said no, I just didn't really like their reunion. She didn't want to feel like he said no, and then she went against his. So she was like, Kunle, I think I'll just not. And I was like, I almost said her name. I was like, wow, I'm proud of you. I was really impressed. I was like, no, you made the right call. I'm sure it must have been difficult for her to say, I'll just go with my husband on this and say no to you, my good friend. So I had to validate her on that call, like, I'm proud of you.
Wow.
This is not a deal breaker, but just the fact that he has a potential that maybe your husband might not read because he's not on the same page, and you chose to go with him rather than your 10-year. Like, I'm proud of you. Prioritize your marriage.
Yes.
And those are ways that some things is not about good or bad. It's not about capacity. Just non-priority. My marriage comes first. If my husband didn't explain why he doesn't want to go, but I just noticed the inkling. I don't want to go against that and cause the issue in my marriage. So I was like, you made the right call. I'm so proud of you for telling me no the way you did. And I had to go to I was able to get other people to show up. But in that, it just made our relationship tight. I just had higher respect for her. She said, and the way she said, I was like, wow, you are grown, you are matured. I'm proud.
Yes.
You're prioritizing your marriage, and that is good. Keep doing that.
Yeah. Wow.
So sometimes we have those negative connotations, feel like, oh, if I say no, maybe they feel like they don't matter, my needs don't matter. But it's going to actually be turned the other way, like, no, they're making the right call. Saying no can be the right. And people who love you, who care about you, would respect you when you make the right call by setting boundaries, because they want your well-being. They want your marriage to thrive. They want your business. They want you as a person to thrive. And they feel like their request is going to be an hindrance, is that they will withdraw that and respect you for prioritizing yourself, respecting yourself. So changing that core belief, that negative thoughts that we have around that, and learn to reframe that can be helpful. And as people who tell people no, like just said, it's not my responsibility to cater to. They can work it out with your therapist. They could figure, I don't need to. I'm just responsible for my boundaries, and I love them. I respect them. I said no, but that doesn't mean I didn't say yes to tomorrow. But today the answer is no. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
I love that.
How
I
do
love
we because something I'm hearing out of all this is there's, or at least what's coming to my mind is there's also sometimes this negative connotation on the word self. Like, obviously that's the word in the word selfishness and so on, this word self. So as we go to invest in ourselves or care for ourselves or think about ourselves, I think men feel that as like, sometimes a negative thing. There's this negative connotation. I can't be selfish. I can't be this. And I think we need to break that investing in ourselves and thinking about ourselves and advocating for ourselves isn't selfish, right? The word, caring about myself, right? I remember having conversations with people and when we're talking about self-care, and there are some people who are just against it. Like they hate the word,
Oh,
they hate the phrase. It's like self-care and it's this idea of like, you're being selfish, right? You're um, even just anything kind of involved with this word self gives kind of this negative spin, and it frustrates me. It really frustrates me because one of the most healing things was me investing in myself, and I see that with my clients as well. One of the most healing things has been caring for themselves, and one of the things that I see trauma healed from is this focus on self,
hmm.
right? And it's not this idea of something selfish. But what do y'all think about this idea of even just this idea of self or investing in ourselves being seen as negative?
Yeah, I think taking some time to rest is important. And just even with my faith background as a Christian, like I told us to take a Sabbath. He told us so. Like if he's telling me like I should take time to rest and I shouldn't be just go all the time, then I'm gonna take time to rest. Um, like that, he's my authority, and that's what I'm gonna do. So that's kind of like my attitude towards that.
It's even interesting though, because it's actually been Christians who have been against that idea of self, because it's like, oh, you're
Yeah,
putting all your trust in yourself instead of God, and so
Mm-hmm.
and so it's actually been Christians that have been, and I'm a Christian myself too, but
yeah,
it's been Christians that have kind of really sometimes attacked that word self, because it's like, oh, you're putting more faith in yourself than in God, and it's totally not the case. Like
yeah.
I have this fight against people um, who, yeah, make this word self negative. It's yeah,
Love your
Yeah.
neighbor as
yeah.
Yes,
yourself.
yes. It's there you go. Do unto others as you'll have them do unto you. It's literally reciprocal, right? It's you have to internally grow. You have to grow. You have to focus on yourself for growth.
Yeah,
It,
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
so
100%.
You can't give what you don't have. If you don't
yes,
take care of yourself, it will be hard
Mhm.
to take care of other people. If you can't take care of yourself as a person, I doubt I would trust you as a therapist for you to take care of me or to help me. In therapy, we use of self. You are the tool. You work on yourself, train on yourself, build yourself, and then you can be a blessing and others to the people you work with. So yeah, self is really important. Self is what we're responsible for. Self is what we carry. And the way you manage self affects the way you manage or interact with other people. If you hate yourself, I wonder if you can truly love other people. So it's important. It's almost like a test phase. The way you handle yourself, taking care of yourself, managing self. Of course, we don't want to take things to the extreme, like just be self-focused and not even care
yes,
about other people.
Yeah.
But it's important that we mention that yes, self is important. And taking care of yourself helps to make sure you can take care of other people too. And know when that is getting to a limit and cut it short and regroup, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah.
100%.
Gavin, your wheels are turning, bro. Tell me
We
what's
can
on your
tell.
Oh,
mind.
We
oh,
can
you
tell.
can what? It's like
Yeah.
get out of
Marinating.
my head, Josh. Get out.
No.
No, no. I'm like, I guess it was stemming off of a lot of things there. Let's see if I can unload some of it. Just respecting the reinvention. Like let's say if you weren't one that had boundaries, like if someone is there to or a group of individuals to support this transition. And I'm like, I think that is probably the adverse side, like the push. The push is to encourage this change. And then where else was going? Because I find that the reinvention of self is what a lot of people, I'm like, I don't want you to change. So that's where it also seems like the negative. I'm like, I see you as this. I'm like, now that you're changing, I'm like, I don't know you anymore. But if you have to reinvent yourself to be your true self, I'm like, there should be a body of individuals around you that support this change. So I think so it doesn't seem like, I'm setting up walls. Like we use the word boundaries, and again, that even sounds negative. So I'm like, no, if I'm setting up a system for myself, and I'm like, and if there are others that are, in the same accord, that just makes it easier. That weight. When you brought up about self and how that word is loaded, and I just thought of like the lone wolf mentality that men are, that's kind of put on us. And I thought, no, like I want to say we're built to be in a community. We foster and care for each other. So why wouldn't I want more for you rather than isolate? I think that's the problem nowadays, is that we isolate. Just because you're going through a moment of growth doesn't mean that you get cut off. So I was just kind of stewing with that.
So it's the idea of self. As you invest in yourself, it brings more to the community that we're meant to exist and be a part of, and even that community can help us in our reinvention of self.
Exactly. So there should be more of a support system, as opposed to I'm setting up these boundaries that are negative. Like I can no longer benefit you because I no longer show up in that way.
Right.
So if I'm shifting, then it's like, okay, well, maybe this is the direction that, it can bring out more of myself, like as in I can accomplish more, or like running myself down. I was like, no, I thought of another way to get things done, and it doesn't necessarily have to be at my detriment.
I think of like Felicia's, Felicia has a private practice rooted in resilience. Shout out. And she has it's a very diverse team, and there's a lot of uniqueness. And the reason this is coming to my mind is because each of those people has their unique maybe niche or approach. They're a self. They have that, but they exist within the practice, and that's what brings this beauty to the practice. Is it's a bunch of selves that are unique and different that form a collective. And I think of, if we bring this in our conversation as men, we need more of those groups. We need more of that sense of brotherhood. We need these people that have invested in themselves and are supporting the reinvention and investing in everyone investing in themselves, and then bringing that into the collective. And we need that support of each other along those journeys. We need to be okay with boundaries. We need to be okay with people changing and not being yes men. We need to be okay with breaking down of these transactional relationships. It's like, oh, you provide me with this, so I I don't like that you're changing because now I'm losing out on this. No, we need to support people in this boundary, in this self-agency, and that just builds the collective so much greater. And I love those thoughts.
No, I agree. I think sometimes when we get stuck in that role, when we get stuck in that role, we can feel like we're just a tool to be used, and that's how we're seen. Just like if someone needs something, I'm gonna go into my box, take out the wrench, and use it. Like you're an actual human being. You're not a tool.
I'm not
It's
a
like-
tool. I'm not a tool.
It's so important to remember that. And like some people, they'll get upset when they realize they can't use you. And what you guys said, it's important to have that community, so that you have people around you who think the same way, who recognize that you are a human being, you are a person, and you are deserving of love. And sometimes we do have to step away from the people around us that are only seeing us as a tool, and be around people who see us as a person.
Yeah,
100%. And as a Christian too, God gave us the blueprint.
Yeah.
In the beginning, the way, with creation, there's a structure and a flow to everything. But if you walk outside, something as simple as your car, if you just keep running it, it's going to eventually stop running. If you don't take it in for maintenance, you don't give it rest. Think of your body. You keep going. Why do we as humans wait for things to get bad with us before we check up on our health? Why do we always wait to the extreme for us to actually see how we're actually doing? Now I'm talking physical, but we are spiritual beings in a physical experience. So something as simple as watching our body. You eat too much of this, you eat too much of that, you drink every day, something's going to happen to you if you don't have that self-care, if you do not care for yourself enough. And it's in everything we do. Cars, nature, you have to water your plants. What happens if you don't water them? There has to be maintenance in order for growth to happen. And so God gave us the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Every kingdom
sorry.
historically had boundaries. Why did they have that? We're talking in a physical essence, but it's in everything we do. Why isn't a home just with a roof? Right? You have to have those boundaries in everything. Everything has boundaries. So,
I want to kind of talk about something. I know that Josh mentioned family systems earlier, and a part of family systems, they talk about feedback loops. And basically, sometimes when you try to change the system or change anything, there's often like opposition to that, right? So basically, you say, oh, I don't want to, I don't know, work on something in particular. And then they might become passive aggressive in order to keep the system going this way, because they know that if they become passive aggressive, it's going to trigger something inside of you, and then you're going to go back to the norm. They basically, again, want to establish what we call homeostasis or balance, right? And so when you think about, okay, so we've talked about the self, right, and how important it is for us to be confident, for my brothers out there to be confident in the self. Now, when they try to put it into the system of a relationship or, a community, right? And there's all of these feedback loops everywhere that is basically, causing maybe some like insecurities or making them feel like they need to keep things the same, which obviously keeps the cycle going. What would you say to that?
I'm gonna jump on this real quick because I literally just had this conversation. One of the things that I notice, one of the things I notice out of just working with people in life and boundaries is that there often is this hurdle, but that's what it is. Like a hurdle, you end up jumping over. You end up getting over the hurdle eventually. But where I've seen is people will back out, or they will stop implementing because they've hit this obstacle before they get over that hurdle. I when we implement boundaries, we need that sense of consistency, right? And within that consistency, that's why this self-agency, validation, being okay with these things, not seeing ourselves as guilty, that's why it's important. It's because that gives us the motivation to stay consistent, right? And what I've seen is eventually, not always, but eventually what happens is you get over that hurdle and people start to realize, oh, they're not budging, they're serious, right? They're changing. But if you give them that wiggle room to now disrupt your boundary, if you give them that sense to just kind of go over that boundary, you're back in that people pleasing, you're back in that pushover stage, and that's where that feedback loop comes from. So I was telling my client that, hey, you don't have to figure this out alone. I'm going to help you, but we need to have knowledge is your friend. We need to know what are the boundaries that you want, and then how do we stay in them consistently? What are the motivators? And a lot of that is self-validation. Hey, these actually matter. Why do they matter? Oh, because they're allowing me to complete the goals that I have in life. Okay, why is that important? Because I'm a person um, whose life in its entirety matters, and I want to reach my goals, and that's okay for me. Okay, so let's use this as motivation for sticking to those boundaries, because I've seen it. Again, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you hit a closed system, you hit a thing where people aren't going to change, and then you have to reevaluate. Do I want to stay in this place? Like, if boundaries are never respected, I might have to distance myself. But oftentimes I see that there is this hurdle that you'll naturally go through, and it's about getting over that. And so use that knowledge to your advantage. Use the knowledge. Like, um, when it happens, tell yourself, oh, here's the hurdle. Okay, I don't have to be surprised or caught off guard. I knew that this was going to happen. This is the hurdle. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to stand firm in my boundaries, right? Still respectful, but I need to stick with them. I need to tell myself the importance of sticking with them, right? I'm respecting myself. I'm pouring into my health. I am stepping past burnout. I'm making sure burnout doesn't happen. I'm filling my cup so that I can have enough for others, right? And it's sticking to those boundaries, that consistency, that I find people eventually get over this hurdle, and the other people in the system eventually see, okay, they're serious. This is what they're this is the boundary that they have set, and I guess I have to learn to respect that. Again, doesn't always happen. Sometimes certain systems, they would just, they're so stuck in their homeostasis, their balance, where they're at, that it's hard to change, and then that's a whole other conversation.
Sometimes you're gonna have to disappoint your mama
And
or your dad.
Man, that's been one of the toughest things for my clients.
Parents.
Yeah.
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 100%.
Yeah. Talking about systems, I think it can be a big one to challenge. So it's usually good to start small. Find small opportunities where you can set
I
boundaries.
like that.
You need to build up the muscle.
Yes.
You need to
That's good.
exercise it before you can now confront in those systems that you belong to. And that just reminded me of a boundary I broke in my family growing up. Growing up, there's a usual practice when someone calls or someone knocks at the door. Oh, is your dad home? Your dad's like, tell him I'm not home. And it was usual practice. Everybody did it until one day I didn't like that. I was like, no, I'm not gonna tell. If they call, I'm not gonna tell you.
No.
And I'm the youngest in the home.
Oh
And when I
no.
said that, I just decided, no, I'm not gonna see your dad. Or I say, he told me to tell you he's not home. Learn not to tell me that. So
Oh my
if someone
gosh.
is calling, they want to give me the phone. They say, Kunle, no, you tell him I'm not home. People stop asking me to do that because they know I just decided, no, I'm not gonna do it. I've done it since I was young. I'm not gonna do it anymore. So people also, I noticed when friends maybe we're in a group, someone maybe we're playing a prank and someone took something or someone, the person came and like, who took my book? And everybody said like, Kunle, who took it? Like, he took it. So people tend to exclude me from, just make sure Kunle doesn't know, because he's not gonna follow, he's not gonna do the prank. And people learn to respect those boundaries. So we need to practice
I like that.
gradually before
I
you
like that.
can bring it. So people will learn to know your stand, and then they'll learn to be able to just respect your boundary.
Yeah. I like that.
And I love that you talked about starting small, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna scale a mountain, you can't run up the mountain. You're gonna
You have to take
run
your
out of
time.
steam. Yeah.
Build up the stamina.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you have to build up that courage, obviously, to face people's disappointment in your no, and their potential reaction. And I like that you said that too. Like we sometimes just jump right in and we're like, okay, no, we're coming right back up. That's too much for me to bear. And then you reach a cycle where you're not going to take those risks as much anymore. So you definitely have to take your time and go into it slow. Yeah.
And there may be a need to switch up boundaries from time to time, because what boundary you may have in one season may not work in another season. right? So boundaries aren't always static. So maybe, I don't know. Now the idea of moms are in my head, so I'm gonna keep going, right? So maybe you go to dinner with mom every Sunday, and then you get married, and maybe there's something else on a Sunday that you have to do, and you may need to set that boundary, right? But sometimes it's hard. It's hard to say that no, especially again, um, yeah, especially again, like going back to disappointing other people. I think there's something there because we're afraid. I don't know, as Caribbean people or as people of color, we are just afraid to disappoint others.
I think it's because I could only speak for the Trinis that I know. It's a very reactive culture, and they don't really think before they speak. If we're being, it just comes out. So I think when you grow up, in a culture that is very reactive, this is why you have like everyone did it. Like Kunle, you're the one that kind of broke the mold, where everyone did it in your family, and it's like if you go against it, it's like, what's wrong with you? What, like, something's wrong with you? And I think this is why I touched upon a culture. Culture plays a massive part. And you're like, everyone just follows along because that's what everyone does. Why do you do this? I don't know. My whole family does it. We can't even define it, so we just continue. So I think that plays a part, 100%. And you have to be comfortable with that reactiveness in both spectrums, because it's going to come. Yeah.
Really good conversation. Yeah, boundaries. I love boundaries.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking, like, this is literally what your profession is about, is identifying these things, because whether you're trying to identify like where anger comes from, it could stem from something else there because you didn't set up a boundary, or you didn't set up a you didn't protect yourself. And that's another thing, is that it we see boundaries as in like the wall. Maybe it's something that you use to protect yourself.
Yes.
And like, that's the self-care part of it. It's like, what, if I don't set these up, like, it's gonna hurt myself. Like, and I know a lot of people may not come to terms with that, but it could be a safety mechanism. And then others on identifying that or seeing that, because then I guess the reason why anger came in is that who wants to be around an angry person all the time? And if they're trying to make the change to identify where that's all coming from, then I'd say rightfully so, everyone should be in support of that. But rather than condemn them for, like, all right, well, you're just you've already been typecasted as the so the office grump or whatever. I'm like, well, it's too late for you. Can't change. Like, everyone knows you as grumpy. It's like, well, what if I don't want to be grumpy?
Yeah.
Like, well, good luck with that. And then it's just like everyone perpetuates that same notion. Like, they don't help. Like, there's no assistance with that. And then that can be put somebody in a point of like despair and just be like, well, maybe I should just stay here. Yeah.
That's the thing too, Gavin. Like, we define ourselves the way people see us. And to break the mold, we need to have that self-care to identify who we are, who we want to be, and where we want to go. And I think that's one of the biggest things, right? That's why we say yes, because we want to fit in, we want to be accepted. And we reach a point where we're at that boiling point, and in order to get out of that change, as we said, like, it's going to require you to find that comfortability. But if you're okay festering in it, then you're not going to live a fulfilled life. You have to step out of that, and you have to stop letting other people validate who you are.
Yeah. And we also need to know that boundaries involve every aspect of our lives. Boundaries are positive, boundaries are healthy. In fact, we are implementing boundaries right now. We have this close call, just us can access, can log in. If there are no boundaries, anybody on the internet could come into this call and join us on video, and then it's going to be noisy, crowded. Our skin is boundary. It keeps our blood flowing, the bones. It keeps germs out. It keeps the bad out. It keeps the good in. Is how I like to explain it. Your head is a boundary. Your head doesn't extend. It's not a amoeba all over your body. Everything has parts. Your eyes, it has its boundary, eye sockets. Your ears has your teeth. Your mouth has its boundary. Boundary is proper. It's necessary for healthy function of a society of people.
Yep.
These walls. I am in a room right now. If I was not in this quiet room, maybe you're going to be hearing cars driving by. It's going to be disrupting. So boundaries are necessary. Boundaries are important. Boundaries help us be able to do things adequate and keep things in order. So part of what Felicia talked about, sometimes those negative connotations or core beliefs we have around boundaries, we need to reframe them and see boundaries as actually something positive rather than negative. When there are no boundaries, that's chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But this
boundaries.
is the thing. God designed the blueprint. There's boundaries in everything we have. And also that involves the maintenance, that involves the time, that it involves the growth period. It's not overnight. But if you don't set boundaries and you don't maintain it, it begins to deteriorate. And this is why you tend to lose your identity even more when you sink into the constant yes, right? So that's exactly to what you're saying, what Felicia was bringing up. Like, yeah,
Boundaries.
it's powerful.
Oh, can you think of examples or remember a time when your anger was actually protecting you? Maybe from disrespect, burnout, or being taken for granted, etc. Thank you, Miss Crazy Licious. I was wondering where
Yes.
you were, Miss Crazy Licious. I was like, where are you at?
Remember a time? Can you think?
So I'll read it again. So can you think of examples or remember a time when your anger was actually protecting you? Maybe from disrespect, burnout, or being taken for granted.
Miss Crazylicious, I have changed, but I was a people pleaser for years. I worked in hospitality for years. So it was all about them. The customer's always right. You're exhausted, but you got to put a smile on. I did that for many, many years. I think I've encountered that, but I don't know if it's a form of protection. I think that anger came out because I never set the safe boundaries in the first place.
Yeah.
And I mean, to that's my perspective on it, because I was always a people pleaser. In the industry, it's put a smile on, get it done. In my relationships, put a smile on, they're happy, everything's good. And then you find I was getting burnt out as well. But when you start to set those safe boundaries, anger is the result of not setting boundaries. It's okay to feel anger and frustration, but in most cases, if you set boundaries in the first place, if people don't respect it, then you can respond in a respectful manner and reiterate those boundaries. But I think anger is never really a protection. Well, can't really say it's not a protection. It's more of a lash out. You're lashing out because things haven't been set. Boundaries have been breached. You say, okay, look, this doesn't work for me. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my 2 cents on it. But I've been in that scenario many, many times. And now in this point in my life, I know why, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Even when you just said the other person's happy, I thought of that phrase, like happy wife, happy life. And like I think for a lot of men, they fall over along that path, and that's what they kind of experience even with as they were growing up. It's like I need to make my mom happy, and if I make her happy, or if I make my dad happy, I'm doing well. and then now I'm in a relationship, I'm married. I have to make this woman happy. I have to make sure that she's good. But I'm not gonna worry about my own needs. And that isn't healthy. A lot of times, like you said, yeah, we can lash out, we can get really angry, but then sometimes we might just go completely quiet. We feel a lot of anger. And it's like the society says you don't want to be angry. If you are angry, you're an angry black man. That's scary. So stay quiet, remain calm, and don't react in any way. But that festering anger, like as it's developing you, is causing depression, is causing illnesses, is causing all sorts of issues. So you're not actually helping yourself in any way. You're damaging yourself. You're damaging the relationship between you and your partner. You're also damaging the relationship that you have with your children. It's not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Our emotions, they have a function. So when we feel anger, there's reason, there's sense behind it. When you feel rage, it has a function. There's something that wants to do. And yes, sometimes when people violate our boundaries, anger can be the response. For example, you're sitting down, I come up, I just step on your toes for no reason. I would expect you to react. I would expect, because you don't expect, or somebody comes and just break in your door and grabs your child and runs out the door. I would expect you to get angry. If you're not angry, I'll be worried, and you're still calm.
Yes.
Or somebody just smashed you parked your car on the street, smashed the window, and you saw them walking, and you're not enraged. So there are certain things when people violate our boundaries or violate what society expects as norm. Sometimes the response can be anger in order to protect us or to seek justice. Sometimes when people are abused, taken advantage of, part of the healing process is actually to protest in anger. Of course, don't destroy anything, but just to make sure someone takes accountability. So yes, our emotions can function in those areas to help to protect us or just stand up for us. Yeah, those emotions are not, we should feel all emotions, but we don't want those emotions to drive us. We want to be in control. We want to learn to regulate our emotions, be in charge, and not just let those emotions drive us to do something we're going to regret. But yes, the function of emotions can also be to protect us sometimes, and
100%.
just to let people take accountability for violating boundaries, for disrespecting us, and making sure that we're not just going to be a walkover. Yeah, we're going to speak up and set boundaries, reset those boundaries, or state the consequences for them violating those boundaries.
Yeah. So, like, I guess my example, we going along the same process was a car accident. I had somebody hit my car from behind, and of course, during that time, it's high stress situation. Why did that happen? Frustration, stepped out, and I don't know if he said this in a joking manner, but the gentleman said, "Oh, well, this is why we have insurance." And I was laughing to myself. I was like, "No, that's not why we have insurance."
Wow.
Like, and I guess that could have turned so many different ways. I think maybe talking to the result, I felt the anger rising in me, as in I was reaching my bounds. But then I think it also helped me to say that's not needed now. I'm like, I needed to be of clear mind going forward. So I can see, even in a way, it's an indicator that there's something that needs to be addressed. So like that high emotional state, or if you hit that wall, then you're like, wait a minute, how did I hit this wall? Maybe I need to figure out how to address it, or not suppress, but redirect it into something that can be productive, or the person that I want to be. Because what I wanted to do was be a different person, but no, I was calm in the moment. But yeah, that would be my example of using or repurposing the anger, and I'm like choosing good.
But that's the thing, right? We have to feel all of the emotions. I think it's like Kunle said, it's how we channel it and manage it. Obviously, if someone breaks into my home, that's a boundary that the safety of my wife, is there. Anger is gonna kick in. Kung Fu may kick in. We'll see, right? So But you have to, in situations where, you know, it's boundaries with your wife or your husband, or boundaries with friends, you know, in those scenarios, I think it's, you know, there's a buildup of it where it's like, have I been establishing boundaries in general? And if not, now if people decide to cross it, then it's an indication too of this person isn't respecting my boundaries. If I reiterate it, then it tells you a lot more about them, as in, regardless of the boundaries you're set, should I even have a person in my life who can't respect my boundaries? That's a deeper conversation, but yeah.
I think there's a popular therapy modality called internal family systems theory. It's just parts work, and one of the books he writes is that there's no bad parts, and I think I relate that to our sense of emotions, right? What we can do with anger here, we can actually have a positive view on anger. We can actually thank our anger for showing up. Like, thank you for what you're doing. It is protective sometimes. It is an indicator that people are threatening us or against us or oppressing us or whatever, right? And so I think as Miss Crazylicious and all my brothers here were sharing, it might be a not that anger is bad, but sometimes my responses can be destructive, right? But if I'm angry, I can actually thank my anger. I can be like, you know what, and notice that and see that indication. Okay, something's up here. I think I'm being taken advantage of. I think something's happening. And then as we grow in that emotional intelligence and knowing how to regulate our emotions and process our emotions, where Kunle said that the emotions aren't driving us and in control, that we actually have this sense of control. And then we use that anger as a way to self-advocate, right? So if I'm getting angry because people are taking advantage of me and then they're manipulating me and that kind of stuff, I can feel the anger come up. I can be like, okay, something's happening here. There's the indication. Thanks for letting me know, anger. And then I respond. And I might respond in a way that really puts my boundaries firm. Like, hey, this is the boundary that I've set, and I need you to respect it because of XYZ, right? But at anger can be such a positive thing to help us know, okay, we need to respond. We're feeling threatened. We need to stand up for ourselves, or where someone's trying to take advantage of us, and we don't want to be in that place anymore. So I can respond, but there's such a positive way to look at it, which
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known, years ago, right? Anger is always seen as bad.
Yeah, it's a survival response, right? So you have your fight, you have your flight, you have your freeze, or your fawn, for all of us Caribbean folk that love to, faint when we get overwhelmed. Thinking about funerals, guys, I've seen one too many. But but it is a survival response. This is how we naturally react when we feel like we're in danger. And sometimes you feel like it has to be, something big, like, okay, like a terrible accident, right? But oh yeah, there's so many. But yeah, like we all, like, in the moment, in certain moments, having a natural reaction, including anger, is actually in place. It's not out of place, right? But what happens is sometimes we get stuck in
Yes.
anger.
Yeah.
And in that stuckness, then that's information as to, why am I still stuck here? Why is it hard for me to move forward? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got excited. I love talking about the window of tolerance. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, I think tonight was such a fruitful conversation. Like, brothers, you guys are obviously amazing. But like, if we could leave one thing with the Love Bay family tonight as it relates to boundaries, what would you share?
A lot of people are terrified, really, really terrified of disappointing people, of setting boundaries. And one thing I'll say, start small. Boundaries are positive, start small. find areas where you can set boundaries, you can say no, even with your therapist, with your friends, and see people respect you for setting boundaries. Yeah, so
Yes.
start small.
I would say validate yourself and advocate for yourself. Oftentimes we'll be in that place of guilt of like, oh, shouldn't have said no, or the self-doubt. Oh, should I have done that? Is that mean? Is that this? Should I, recant my boundary? I think validating that your needs and your boundaries matter, that you're okay in that, it's a positive thing, and then advocate for yourself. Step out in that. Yeah, that's what I would leave.
Yeah. Again, I would say definitely find someone, like a therapist that you can talk to, because they can walk you through learning how to have boundaries, to be assertive. It can be hard doing it on your own, and it can be difficult knowing that people might not read boundaries right away when you start setting them. So we can fall back into old patterns. But I think when we practice it with the therapists, it can help us walk through it, and it gets a little bit easier for when we're actually doing it in the outside of that safe space.
Yeah. I would definitely say, you know, I like Kanle's message of start small, take it one day at a time, and it's going to be a journey. And as you begin to set boundaries, it will take time. You will see people, you will disappoint people because they didn't get what they wanted from you, but you will begin to see the fruits of your labor, as that saying goes. So be patient with yourself, and just start small. So
I'm gonna say the word no.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. No.
and
No.
figuring and figuring out what that word means to you. So
yeah.
Powerful conversation tonight, my brothers. And thank you again so much, Josh, Kunle, Andrew, Matthew, Gavin, for, like always, showing up with honesty, vulnerability, and heart. These conversations remind us strength isn't about how much we carry. It's about knowing when to. So if tonight's discussion to take a moment to check in with yourself and the men around you, boundaries are not rejection. They are acts of self-respect and self-preservation. Protect your peace, purpose, and remember that vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength in motion. And don't forget, join us next week for our Insight Hour episode. And next week we have guest Andrew Guy, registered psychotherapist, as we dive into who's driving you, breaking free from childhood wounds in a culture of moreness. You don't want to miss it. So right here on the Mental Health Hour next Tuesday. I'm Felicia Fishoff, registered psychotherapist and founder of Rooted in Resilience, Psychotherapy and Wellness. And this has been the Mental Health Hour. Peace out.
See ya.